Mans draugs Andris ir zaudējis visu prātu. Atkal es nezinu, ko darīt. Oh, I'm so sorry, I speak English now. He's gone too far this time. First he talked about audio for 99% or something like that. And now he's got a 6K card. Oh, this is crazy. I have to drink vodka from my ancestral homeland, Latvia. Sorry, one minute here. Oh my goodness, this is going to help me a lot here. Oh, I don't know what to do, friends. Please, Andres, make this stop. That Apocalypse guy, I tell you, man, he is the bane of my existence. But before we do anything else, I have to give a massive shout out to Vince and David from Tricell Enterprises. They made this particular demo possible. They're loaning me this wonderful cartridge, and I am very, very grateful for it. It gives me a great opportunity to show you guys what it can do and open the discussion that my friend just started back there. So hang on, guys. We're going to go for it in 1 second. All right, guys, how do you reconcile my video from a couple ago, audio for the 99%, while showing a cartridge that retails for $5,825 in Canada? There would appear to be a dichotomy here, but if you hear me out, it'll make more than a bit of sense here. The reason I wanted to do this demo was I am building a couple turntables. My Nebula is still in development. My little pucker is at a very good stage right now. It's working very, very well. And I'm looking at cartridges that I can use for it. My philosophy has been from day one, if it doesn't play well with an AT3600, stop. You got something very, very wrong with your product. It's just, you can't have excuses for it. It's got to work. But then how far can you take a project like this? Now, the little pucker is a DIY project that grew. And I'm keeping it on printables as such. But if you want to buy one of my turntables, they're not cheap. They're $2,100. Now you're going, hang on, DIY, $2,100. The whole idea behind DIY is to save you money. If you build it yourself, the turntable costs you maybe $500 for parts to build one up. And, you know, depending on what cartridge you go with, it'll go up from there. But here's the kicker. I felt that this thing had a lot of potential because when I designed it after the scratch builds, there's a few things I incorporated into the turntable that are kind of cutting edge trends right now in turntable design. The first one is an epoxy filled platter. Now, you might, well, you can just buy an acrylic platter on Amazon like for $90. Why would you do this? I'm going to show you something here. This is the epoxy filling in the 3D printed shell. Now, it seems like a heck of a lot of work to go through, but the reason why is the qualities of it. There's essentially no ring to this thing. That was the goal when I made it. And essentially what I'm trying to do is future-proof the design, that it could start off as a very simple project or grow to something much, much, much more elaborate and fancy. So this was one of the concepts that I had to work towards this flexibility in the turntable. The second part of the equation, and probably the most important thing I'm working on right now, is the tone arm. I'm going to show you one right here. So this is my Carbo Extreme tone arm. This is not the one I was using for the demo. It's just one I have handy and I can show you guys. The idea behind this, while it looks very, very simple, is to isolate different frequencies and keep the reflections from getting back into the cartridge. What I do is for all my better cartridges, I actually face the underside of the head shell. This makes a very even bond between the cart and the head shell, so you don't get any little micro vibrations or any kind of nastiness going on in there. Then we get to the multiple parts. Initially it was simpler, but what I decided to do was I have a faceplate, the actual head shell, and then you get this part over here, which serves two purposes. It acts as another interface, so as the vibrations travel through here, they got to get through this, into this, and then into this, and so forth. So the idea is just to throw up as many barriers as you can for the vibrations not to start making the whole tube vibrate. It also serves as the carrier for the actual wire transport. So the wire transport is a tube that has all the wires going into it and has a little bumper here to isolate the tube from the rest of the system. Also, what these guys have is the pivot has got 4 adhesive pads to separate the actual cup from the actual tone arm. And the counterweight also has a very consistent interface with the tubing, so it's not like a point or just a hot spot. It rests very thoroughly on the tubing. The adjustment was intentionally left like this. Very easy to put a set screw in if you want. I didn't want extra stuff, so it'll slide very freely, and you can adjust it as you wish. You can add more, friction in there if you want. But that's the basic premise of this tone arms. So those 2 items, and of course good motor control, which we're going to discuss a lot of these things further in other videos. But essentially you got very steady motor control. You have a platter that's non-resonant. You have a tone arm that's also designed to stop some of the excess resonance. So the idea was to keep going to see how far we could push this turntable. Well, actually both turntables. I was doing some testing on the Nebula as well. How far we could push these concepts with better and better cartridges. I personally own the Hanna ML. I purchased one last year, and I wanted to see how that would do. Again, we're going to discuss something very, very interesting in a couple of minutes here. But so you're looking at a cartridge that costs $1,400. Now, if you build the turntable yourself, you're way below that. So there's that perceived imbalance in capabilities. And the ML is just gorgeous. I have demos I've put up, and I'll probably put some more eventually as well. But, the idea behind talking about cartridges and their qualities, talk is cheap. Anybody can come to me and say it's got, it's crystalline, shimmering highs. It means nothing unless you can hear it. So what I try to do to the best of my abilities is, including this video, I'm going to have samples at the end, and they're going to be links to the 24 192 files up on my Dropbox. So you can listen to it on YouTube, which will give you a really good start in terms of the sound quality and frequency response. You're not going to get all the nuances, but it's going to be very good. Now, if you want to hear everything, basically pop to the high-res files, and you'll have a very, very, very good understanding of what it's sounding like. And anybody that's kind of like, oh, it's digital now and it won't really work. Anybody that has an active speaker system is digital. So unless your system is pure analog from the needle to the speaker, it's ridiculous. It doesn't mean anything. Now, nothing wrong with a pure analog chain. They are quite lovely. But what I'm saying is most systems today do have some processing somewhere in the chain. So if you're afraid of that digital step in there, I really don't know what to say. It's the only way I can present it to you guys. And I feel it's a very good representation because I have listened to both, sound in my room and sound once it's recorded through this very same system. So anyways, that's up to you guys. And if you want to check out the higher res files. Now, again, we come back to this whole thing with this, I'm not going to call it a myth, but it's a conception that when you build a system, the cost has to be kind of matchy-matchy. If you buy a $200 turntable, you're not going to put like, $1,000 cartridge on it, typically. But I think that's going to change a little bit. And this is another reason why I wanted to bring in a super high-end cartridge to test in this environment. It's kind of to prove that you don't have to have a $20,000 turntable for this cartridge to make a difference. It clearly already has made a very, very good impression upon me, and I hopefully for you guys too when you listen to it. But the idea here is, it's like, there's nothing wrong. You want to get a high Zoot record player? Go for it. They're beautiful. Some of the new products are absolutely stunning. But if you want an option, if you want to get something that you can build and aim towards an aspirational system, you can start off very, very modest. And literally, you can build this turntable up with the cheapest cartridge and work your way up if you want to. Or not, that's, again, different discussion. But if you want to keep something that'll give you that open end to build up a system That'll be absolutely spectacular. This is kind of the way to go. I'll give you an example. And this is nothing against Rega turntables. They have, you know, their new line of turntables are absolutely beautiful. Let's say you buy a high-end Rega turntable for 10,000 bucks. And then you pop on this cartridge here for roughly 6,000 bucks. You're looking at about 16K for the whole rig. Now, what if you've built up the system for very, very, very little, and then you add on something like this cartridge or another high-end cartridge? Your cost will be, I mean, literally the cartridge plus 500 bucks. If you DIY it, of course, I'm very, very specific. If you DIY it, there's a fair bit of work in building it. So that's your sweat equity you're putting into it. So what we're looking at here is another way, a novel way to approach really high-end audio, but gradually. If you don't have the budget, it's not a problem. You can start very modestly and build your way up. This is also, we've talked about my open source designs for my Polecat speakers, which use 3D printed holders to hold the drivers in place and such. There's ways to get there. And as you go, there's nothing wrong with replacing them with a beautiful high-end system. That's fine. If you have the funds to do it, that can also be done. But these are kind of more modular systems where you would keep the actual unit, and then you can expand way past its perceived value. And I think that's what makes this kind of very, very interesting to myself, because when I started out, I wasn't really planning to go past maybe, say, a $500, $600 cartridge, but like a Denon moving coil or something like that. I thought that would be kind of where it would sort of top out, but it didn't. Once I got the Hana, it was like years ahead of the Denon. Now, the Denon's not a slouch, don't get me wrong, but we're dealing like a quantum leap in terms of quality. So that's really, really an interesting point. Now, as we get into the sort of nitty gritty, I just wanted to like address a couple things when you're going into the process of getting something of this quality. One of the things that was absolutely amazing was when I received the package, when you get a lot of sort of the Apple-fied products these days, the user experience is very slick. It's very packaged, it's very repeatable. But this beauty came in this beautiful box on this gorgeous paper, and everything about it just screams craft. There is nothing about this experience that's mass-produced. Everybody has it. So again, you're looking at something, it's very, very tight, very well made. So you have this gorgeous unit here, and even this is, the fit and finish is absolutely spectacular. It is just a really, really amazing experience. Just drop the little screw there. Let's pop that back in there. So going through this, I think what I'm looking at fundamentally is a combination of where you are and where you can get to. And having aspirational products in your sights is not a bad thing. Again, I really, really want to see more hi-fi in more people's hands, especially young people. But this is a down-the-road project, and it's actually feasible because there is a difference. Now, let's get into some of the more sort of nuts and bolts items of this particular experience. When I was setting it up, I already showed you the platter with the epoxy fill and the tone arm, how it works to kind of isolate the frequencies and so forth, and keeping in step with current design philosophies. One other thing I use is this thing down here. I call this my space waffle. It's a 3mm slip mat, but you can see it's very soft. I made it out of a very, very expensive and high-tech TPU. And what it does essentially is, it's like creating a million little fingers holding up your record. The record has a very, very good interface with the platter. It doesn't slip at all. It's right in place. But each of these tiny grooves is what's joining to your record. You don't have a mass rubber. Now, the advantage of that is fairly self-explanatory. If you have vibrations coming up and you got a mass mat, and you got a heavy platter that's basically storing all that energy and then sending it back up into your record, you are going to get microphase cancellation, and you're going to get some loss in your signal. It's just going to happen. This is inevitable. Going with something like this is really, really effective in isolating a lot of that, not just rumble, but actual vibrations from the record coming back into itself. On my Nebula, it's even more exaggerated because the platter's super light. That in itself has been causing some problems I still have to work out. But the lightweight platter concept does work, and even the one I showed you with the epoxy insert isn't that heavy. So these systems are kind of like the bedrock on how you approach a test like this. So when you start a project like this with the installation process, you do require a little bit more care than with a more robust cartridge. Obviously, it's a finer product. It's simply more delicate, and you have to look at a few things. Your whole tracking angle, tracking weight, all that kind of stuff. Like there's some amazing videos out there on how to do that. I think I might put a couple links below. But essentially, you got to make sure that you got, the tracking weight is very, very important. You have to have that spot on. And, your tracking angle should be a neutral starting point, because these more high-end cartridges, there is some room for tuning because they will show the difference compared to sort of a more basic cartridge. The other thing too you have to watch out for is all the angles. So I bake in the offsets and the relative length between the pivot and the tip of the stylus. So these things on my tone arms are baked in. You don't have to really do much when you do it. I always check it. I use a Lofgren A set up on there, and I will put a protractor on there just to have a look at it. And the reason is, like J.R. Boisclair, he's got some great videos stating that, well, I mean, his stuff is so intense and amazing, it's really worth checking out. That, like for a very basic level, your basic cantilever might be a little skewed a little bit, or in his research, even the needle might be sometimes slightly off. But that's, again, a more in-depth project and discussion. That's not really something that you can, really fix yourself. But I would be very thorough in my setting up of those two things, because with a microline needle, like this particular Etsuro Urushi Cobalt, you don't want to be off. Because it's not like a basic old cone that if it's off, it's not going to trash your record or the stylus. This thing has to be spot on in there. And that is a very, very, very important thing to consider. So if you're doing it yourself, and this applies to really any cartridge past, like $100 or whatever, take the time. If it's elliptical, microline, Shibata, make sure you get that thing in there properly. It'll squawk if it's not done properly. You will notice anomalies in the sound, but you just want to be safe. So anyways, do your setup properly. And in this case, double check, triple check, make sure everything is properly set up. And then that will get you really ready for the game that's up ahead. So once we have all the mechanics set up properly, and you're confident you've done it properly, or somebody has set it up for you, now the fun starts. Now, one of the things with any cartridge actually, but with the higher end cartridge, it's just simply more noticeable. It's not that your $40 cartridge doesn't do this as well. They all do this. And what will happen is you will have a break-in period. This isn't like one of those snake oil things where I'm putting crystals on top of my router and some sort of magical fairy will blow out. This is simple, just mechanics. Your speakers have it, your cartridges have it. It's basically just a little stick and a rubber mount, and it's going to loosen up. That's the simplest explanation of it. And it varies. A lot of cartridges can be 30 hours or so. Talking to the reps, they said this one settles in completely by 100 to 150 hours. I've noticed already a massive sort of settling in by about 10 hours. It's kind of where I am happy to present some stuff, and I will have some demos afterwards. Now, please keep in mind, I'll rephrase that afterwards. This cartridge is not fully broken in, but it's already eclipsing pretty much anything I've had on my turntables, and frankly, stuff I've heard at a lot of shows. So I'm not working in a vacuum. It's not like, oh my God, my world's so amazing. I mean, I've literally been at shows where there was a $20,000 turntable with a $50,000 speaker system. It was so bad I left the room after 10 seconds, and they were all aghast. It's like, well, dude, if you don't have it set up right, no one's going to stick around and go, unless they got more money than brains, which is not a good scenario. Now, this is not one of those products. This product is spectacular. It is absolutely spectacular. And what you'll notice first on your first play is you're going to notice separation of instruments. This is, again, something that's not snake oil. It's not vague. It's like being in a studio when you're tracking a band and you pan something to one side, you pan something to the other side. You are consciously putting the elements there. Having been a mixer in studios and live and a sound designer, I am not working in my armchair going like, again, I hear peacocks, 40 feet away. This is what we do. This is how we create sound stage. You basically work with EQ, timing, all these elements, and you can move stuff around. You really can. So these things that some artists work towards establishing shine. For instance, I was listening to a couple copies of Dave Brubeck, Time Out, one stereo, one mono. And the way this brings the recording into your space or headphones, you feel like you're in the studio. And again, having been in the studio, I can speak from experience rather than conjecture or some vague terms. It's remarkable. So if that information is on your disc, it will take it and it'll present it to you. That is the magic of something when you get into this level. My HANA ML is also like that. You basically get a holographic sound. It sounds like you're there. And that's what you're paying for. You're paying for that incredible experience of basically reality. That's what everybody hopes for as they spend more money to get out of their system. It's not impressive. Like, you can buy a $99 Ortophone Red, 2M Red. Slap it on, the thing is vibrant, nasty, bite, great for a party. It'll be a blast. But after maybe 2 hours of listening, what'll happen is you'll get ear fatigue. You will get hearing fatigue. It's going to happen. Something like this, you can listen for hours and hours and hours. When I was doing the recordings to test this, often I'd go maybe 4-hour stretch listening to music. No hearing fatigue, and it's an incredible experience. So that is the first impression that you get hit with. And as the cartridge starts settling in, you notice, for lack of any kind of more esoteric term, a skinch more clarity. Same path and trajectory as my HANA ML. It's completely normal because it has so much ability. You notice that change. Now, if you get a cheaper cartridge, it doesn't have much where to go. Like, it's not going to become like an incredible piece overnight, right? It's not going to happen. It'll kind of settle where it is and it'll do its mechanical settling in, but it's not going to give you the same level of slight bump up that you notice with a better product. So that's kind of the explanation for burn and so forth. Now, what I did was oh man, it must be probably about 15, 20 albums I've gone through now. And I'm sort of kind of at a 10, 12 hour mark, and those are some of the recordings I'm going to show you today. Like the title said, this is part one. This product really, really deserves 2 parts to it. The first part, kind of an overview and the concept of, how dare I show a $6,000 cartridge when I'm talking about audio for the 99%. It does make sense. It's an aspirational product, something to grow for. And the recordings that I'm going to present today are pretty interesting. Let's have a look at those. Alrighty, let's have a look at some of the albums I will be presenting today. So the first one is Arthur Ozolins. He is a Canadian pianist of Latvian origin, and his musicality is absolutely incredible. Let's hold it up a little bit higher here so you can see this. And I wanted to use this one because I'm going to start chronologically. This one here is from 1976. It's a CBC recording. And the piece that I'll play is also from a Latvian composer. And the Latvian connection, of course, is because I have Latvian heritage. My mom was Latvian. So this was quite fun to use this particular recording, which is very, very, very well recorded. And I think you'll enjoy the music and the performance here. So this is an older recording. You can see how it performs on this cartridge. Then we move up to some of the dreaded digital to analog recordings. And I say dreaded with a bit of tongue in cheek here. They're actually wonderful recordings. But with this generation of recording, what happens was the recorders they were using back in the mid-80s, they had a strange effect on brass and sometimes strings. There was a harshness to it. And you hear people saying, well, they can hear the difference between digital and analog. That was only true for this period because the recorders did in fact raise the sibilance. So it's one of those situations where in general it's not true, but with these guys, 100% true. But the mic placement, the mixing, the engineering, production and playing on these records is fantastic. So this is why I wanted to use this one to show something from that period, if you own these records, how the cartridge will perform. And a little bit of pop. My friend Sting here. Now, this record is from 1987. And I love the album. I think the album is absolutely fantastic. Musically, it's a wonderful representation of the period and the musical styles. But what you'll notice on this album, and this album in particular is something really interesting. It's what I call truth. When you get really, really, really good playback, good speakers, good amps, good cartridges, they will tell you the whole truth. When I was recording this, I actually recorded this earlier today, the sibilance was so noticeable, I thought, okay, did something go wrong? So what I did was I went to Tidal, I listened to the same track, same sibilance. So what happens is when you get gear this good, sometimes the truth is a little bit harsh. And to be fair, it's also harsh on Tidal. So you're getting a very, very, very accurate read in what you're playing. So, one of the things is when you have a record that has some, frankly, flaws in it because the recorders from that period were known for their, harshness and sibilance. It will tell you. But it didn't, again, destroy the experience for me because the rest of the music, the balance, the performance was fantastic. But that's what happens with extremely resolving equipment. You will start hearing these anomalies. So we went from Arthur Ozolins, which is brilliant analog recording, just simply lovely, to Vaughn Williams. And again, I love the album. But you do notice some of those smaller anomalies, to Sting, where the anomalies can be like, oh, geez, but that's not a deficiency. That's actually, when you get to something really, really good, it will show you those small flaws in there. Now, we're going to jump to something completely different. As I said in one of my previous videos, I love looking at what's happening with new artists. And Sudan Archives, let me just see over here, with this very innovative side label, has put this double album out. And I'm not only blown away by the music, because the editing in the electronic style that she's working in is pure genius, combined with acoustic instruments as well. But the actual pressing on red clear vinyl is amazing. So why I'm so chuffed about this is all the traditions that people have developed over the years are kind of condensed and consolidated in an album like this. This is a younger person producing, well, first of all, incredible music, but the whole production value, like in terms of the experience, this is where we come back to other elements of vinyl. You have a beautiful fold-out album, beautiful graphics, beautiful pressing, beautiful experience. This kind of was a topper for my day today. And again, coming around back to what we're talking about. The sound starts with the needle in the groove. As I said in a couple of my other videos, it's like a saxophone. It's the reed and the mouthpiece. If that isn't good, nothing else matters. And it's not like, oh, well, you need a tone arm too. That's not a question of what's gone. That's your source. That makes the vibrations that will be amplified through your preamp, into your amplifier, and into your speakers. That is the truth. So if that can't read what's on there and reproduce it, everything else falls aside. It simply will never be excellent. So the experience with the Cobalt Blue today, there was some revelations, like with Sting, which was amazing. And again, still a pleasant experience. It's just this truth that you get when you have a really, really good cartridge can be shocking at first. You're going, what? And then you realize, well, that's what that art is. Now, as I said, I'm so buoyed and so happy to see that we're returning to really, really high quality production. This is not a $100 album. This was just a regular, I think it was $45 for the double album here in Canada. And we're getting back into like affordable records that sound great with great artists. I mean, that is what it's all about. It always comes back to the music. How do we get the music off some medium that makes us happy to listen to it? And I got to tell you, this afternoon, I was happy. So, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to those cuts in the order I presented to you. And I will continue listening and recording more albums as the cartridge, not fully breaks in, but gets at least a 30-hour mark. And then I will do a second video.
coffee, I take tea, my dear. I like my toast done on one side. You can hear it in my accent when I talk. I'm an Englishman in New York. You see me walking down Fifth Avenue, a walking cane here at my side. Take it everywhere I walk. I'm an Englishman in New York. Whoa, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman in New York. Whoa, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman in New York. If manners maketh manners, someone say he's our hero of the day. It takes a man to suffer ignorance and Takes more than combat gear to make a man. Takes more than a license for a gun. Confront your enemies, avoid them when you can. A gentleman will walk but never run. The manners make of manners, someone say. He's a hero of the day. It takes a man to suffer ignorance and smile. Be yourself, no matter what they say. 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 I'm a legal alien. Be yourself, no matter what they say. Be yourself, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm a Englishman. Be yourself. Be yourself, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. I'm an Englishman. No matter what they say. Be yourself, I'm an alien. I'm a legal alien. Be yourself, no matter what they say.
From the top, red. Yeah, yeah. I hit the dance floor. Come on. Come on. Yeah. I hit the dance floor. He got his eyes watching me. I licked my lips, flipped my hair, and rolled up some weed. He said I like that. He said, what's that on your sleeve? Oh, this whole thing, boy, I got this in Queens. Tell me in the D. On the top deck, tryna find you 'cause you left a precious image in my head. Damn, there's so much I left unsaid. And can we please rewind the time? Goddamn, I didn't see the sign. Yo, I cannot keep him off my mind. No, you see me grinding to the beat. These bitches call me Queen Bee. Sweet as honey and I'm fly. Oh, you looking super fine. Hit my line all the time. I turn a straight nigga by. I still can't get you off my mind. I'm the best, I'm a dime. Do I need a ring? Yeah. Yeah. I got something to tell you. I got nothing to tell you. See, I know what you've been through, and I know why they sent you. Got you moving cars, but you let the rest do. Try to mask it with makeup. I wanna fight that makeup. Make love, but you make